Then they take on the jocks from Camp MVP in the Apache Relay, which seems very thrown together and makes no sense just as a competition of any kind. Because Camp MVP is a jock camp. It's a camp of jocks where jockey jocks can jock around and jock all the way their jocking heads off. And it made absolutely no sense to be like, you know what would be great for camp spirit and unity? Let's have a thing where they compete against each other, and we just embarrass these kids every year. Because obviously the Camp MVP kids are going to win. They went to camp to do physical exercise. Like, that's how they want to spend their summer. Of course they're going to win. They enjoy competition. Hello there, and welcome to another episode of Blockbuster Reviews. If you don't know what that is, it is where I play a single game of Marathon in Tetris 99 to 150 lines, and I have to review a film before the blocks reach the top, or I get 150 lines. Spoilers are at line 50. I don't think it'll matter for this one specifically. So Heavyweights is a children's movie from the 90s that, you know, a lot of the jokes are based on children's weight. That's one of the reasons I love it so much, is because just knowing it will never be made again today. Even though the film, I don't think, really makes fun of those people. I think what it does is actually puts people that are overweight in, how do I say this diplomatically? Which wouldn't be the way the movie does it. It doesn't go, ha ha ha, they're overweight. I think what it does, it goes, ha ha ha, they're, you know, just like anybody else. They're human beings with their own likes and dislikes. They just happen to be overweight or obese or whatever you want to call it. And the movie is very funny. It's about Jerry, who lives in Long Island. And on the last day of school, he gets told by his parents that they want to send him to a camp called Camp Hope. That looks from the promotional video brought by a very creepy dude. I think his name was Jerry. I'd have to look at the notes of him, but he's actually a pretty famous face. He's in stuff like Oh Brother, Where Art Thou and Ballad of Buster Scruggs. I think he was the Buster Scruggs there's a ballad of. But he goes to Camp Hope, and on the plane he meets a kid who's also going to Camp Hope, who is played by Kenan Thompson, the longest-running SNL cast member. And they talk about going to fat camp. He says it's actually a great place, and Jerry meets Pat Finley from the Camp Hope promotional video. The great running joke in the movie. And then it turns out, when he gets there, basically the kids, they bring their own snacks, and they have a good time, and the point of the meeting with, what's his name? Roy was Kenan Thompson's character. They meet on the plane, and the thing he says is, best part about camp is, you're not the fat kid, because everybody's the fat kid. And it's kind of like a moment of resonance and realization when you realize, like, oh, like, maybe I was just realized how stupid it sounds. Like, if you just treat them like people, then they're more outgoing and they're more honest with themselves and they're willing to step out of their shell, and that's what Jerry does. He meets all these awesome people. They start hanging out. There's a point where they talk about the new owner, which is played by Ben Stiller. They have this great opening where you think, oh, it's the Bushkins, the people who own the camp, and then they reveal, oh yeah, we're bankrupt and we had to give up the camp, and you're going to meet your new owner right now. And that new owner is Ben Stiller, who is Tony Perkis, who might as well be White Goodman from double check that, it's gonna bother me that I got it possibly wrong, from Dodgeball. He's basically the same character, and he has taken over the camp, and he wants to turn it into the most successful infomercial for losing weight ever. And he has a cameraman, and they're going around, and he's trying to show that he's good with children, which he mentions he's never worked with children before, and he grew up in private schools and tutors and whatnot. And it's clear because he's a little out of control, a little unhinged, and quickly the camp becomes kind of a hellhole in which these kids have to survive, and it becomes kind of horror movie situation with these, portly kids dealing with this evil camp owner. I mean, it wouldn't be a Disney movie without the, the standard. They win in the end. They defeat the bad guy. They become, masters of their own domain. And Pat Finley, the guy from the beginning who gets dressed down by Tony Perkis over and over, he has a moment where he stands up to him and takes over to the camp, which is what most of the kids wanted anyway. And then they take on the jocks from Camp MVP in the Apache Relay, which seems very thrown together and makes no sense just as a competition of any kind. Because Camp MVP is a jock camp. It's a camp of jocks where jockey jocks can jock around and jock all the way their jocking heads off. And it made absolutely no sense to be like, what would be great for camp spirit and unity? Let's have a thing where they compete against each other, and we just embarrass these kids every year. Because obviously the Camp MVP kids are going to win. They went to camp to do physical exercise. Like, that's how they want to spend their summer. Of course they're going to win. They enjoy competition. These kids, they wanted to have fun at summer camp. They're not prepared to go to war with these little Hitler youth, which, by the way, that might seem harsh. That might seem harsh, but they're real dickheads. From the movie, from the very beginning, they're assholes. They vandalize their camp. They act like dickbags all the time. Even the coach is a dickbag. I said dickbag a lot and forgot where I was going with that. Anyway, the point is this. I love heavyweights. I've loved heavyweights for a long time. One of my fondest memories of a video store, if you know what those are, kids. It's where we used to buy physical copies of our movies. It's so crazy. But I remember being in a video store once, and I was just looking at movies, and then I was like, you know what movie we don't have? Because this was during the big transition from VHS to DVD, and maybe even Blu-rays were around then. I think it might be DVDs. I was like, you know what movie we don't have that we should? Heavyweights. And the guy behind the counter was like, heard us and was like, oh man, do we have heavyweights? And then he looked it up, he's like, we don't have heavyweights, but I can get it ordered, it'll be here in a week. And he was as stoked as we were about it, which was like, I'm so glad we'll never lose out on this. The feeling of being in a video store talking movies with strangers and socializing. Of course, that's me being facetious. Oh, wow, I'm making some bad moves. Thinking about those good old days of the video store. But, I mean, you knew what was going to happen. They'd end up successful. They'd be the winning team, all that jazz. But what I love about the movie, the joke isn't, hey, they're fat. The joke is, hey, the funny things that happen at camp when dealing with this psycho camp counselor, and the guys and the kids happen to be large, and that's the focus of the evil owner, is how large they are and how they're screwing up his commercial. But the kids just want to be kids, and they don't want to have to deal with the pressures of everyday life and being the quote-unquote fat kid. That's why I love this movie, and I'm surprised it's on Disney+. That's right. Heavyweights is on Disney Plus right now, with basically a lot of jokes about being overweight, even though I don't think that's the message. And I've watched it now more than Hamilton. Hamilton's been on there for a couple days, haven't watched it, have no interest, but I have seen Heavyweights again. Now, some would call me crazy, I just know what I like. Not a big fan of musicals, big fan of comedies written by Judd Apatow, that's right. He wrote it. Anyway, go watch Heavyweights. It's on Disney Plus right now. If you scroll past the Hamilton and all the Pixar movies and the terrible live-action remakes of your cartoon classics, Heavyweights. It's fantastic.